Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming today. So if you haven't noticed, the holidays are fast approaching. Although there aren't any Buddhist holidays this time of year, I know many of us still celebrate the holidays that we grew up with or that our families celebrate. My family is kind of a cultural hodgepodge, so we're Buddhist, but we speak Yiddish and we celebrate Christmas. So Christmas has always been a big holiday for our family. We put up lights and, deck the tree out, and I love that feeling of pulling all the ornaments out of their storage boxes and remembering each of them, reminiscing, finding the little ceramic ballerina ornament I've always loved, or the little styrofoam snowman ornaments that my brothers made when they were little kids, or, just those little memorable, nostalgic trinkets that we have. And or those retro bubble lights. Do you ever have seen these on Christmas trees? Like the ones that have little bubbles going up in the lights? I think they're so cool. One year we decided not to put the star on the top of the tree, and we tried putting a Buddha statue up there instead, and the tree immediately fell over. So don't try that. So now we put a picture of Guru Rinpoche on top of the tree. But otherwise, it's a pretty classic Christmas scene, other than the Buddha on top of the tree. My mom, Jetsunma, always said that Christmas is all about generosity. And what's not to love about generosity? Buddhists can get behind generosity. So we've always celebrated Christmas. So I've stocked up on pie baking supplies for all of the inevitable holiday get-togethers, and my husband and I are trying to decide whether or not to get a real tree this year. And, what to get for all. You think so? Yeah, go for it? All right, it's a lot of vacuuming, but. Yeah, no cats, so we're safe. Yeah. Yeah, I should be careful saying that. Someone will send me home with a cat. So we're trying to think of, what to get all of our family members and what they should get for us. They're asking us to put together lists. And so in this flurry of festive activity, I've been thinking about how, even though this is the season of giving, we spend it thinking about what we are getting. And we're constantly thinking about what are we getting out of it all? And how do we feel about it all? Isn't it just the most important thing? What's in it for me? That's what Christmas is all about, right? What's in it for me? How do I feel about the Christmas music on the radio? Is it pleasing? Is it grating? Is it nostalgic? How do the strings of lights in the trees and the smell of gingerbread make me feel? How do I feel about the people that put up their Christmas decorations before Thanksgiving? How do I feel about the pressures of consumerism? How does the shrill bell of the Salvation Army volunteer outside of the grocery store make me feel? What is my experience of shopping for people on my list? Is it, am I feeling joyful about it? Is it making me feel stressed? What am I getting from giving this gift and from you joyfully receiving it? Am I getting the experience that I want? Would I feel differently if you were more appreciative of the gift, or if you were less appreciative of the gift? If you don't have the reaction I hoped for, would I wish I hadn't wasted the money on you? Would I wish I'd gotten you something cheaper that maybe like, oh, you don't care about that, I should have spent less money. Or you didn't get me anything. I didn't realize we weren't exchanging gifts, like I should have saved my money. Would I regret being generous toward that individual? And if so, then was my gift really for them? Or am I giving this gift because I really want the gift of feeling special, of feeling loved, of feeling important or accepted or better than, or because I want to be seen as a generous person? Is that why I'm giving this gift? Although this is the season of giving, we spend it obsessed with getting. We often give out of a sense of obligation because tradition or consumerism demands it, not out of a genuine desire to give. We often then participate in cheap consumer trends that are harmful to the environment because we just have to get them something. Something has to be under the tree. And so to satisfy that sense of holiday gift-giving duty, then we may buy our loved ones something that we know is just going to get stuffed in the back of a closet or get thrown out immediately. And if we got them something, check the box. And we do that anyways. We give anyway because we're expected to. And then we're giving with that dry, hollow feeling of giving without generosity. So instead of rotely pushing through the mad dash of holiday shopping with a dry, hollow heart, why not do the work of restoring your heart's juicy generosity so that the giving flows effortlessly, like your own blood? When we think of giving at the holidays, we usually think of giving material objects, of wrapping gifts in pretty paper and arranging them under the tree, or of baking pies and cookies and delivering them to our neighbors. We usually think of outer gifts like this, but we can also offer inner gifts to others. We can consider our inner qualities and experiences, our thoughts, emotions, habits, our qualities of patience, love, generosity, and so forth. We can curate an abundance of these beautiful inner gifts and arrange them nicely within ourselves and offer them as an unending feast to others. These inner gifts, when unwrapped, may appear as kind, wise words, or appear as friendship, or they may appear as a manner that puts others at ease, or acts of compassion and courage, or they may appear as material gifts. But no matter what outer form our gifts may take, our true present to others are the inner gifts, our generosity, our wisdom, and our love. Of course, you can give material gifts without any of those inner gifts, but then you'll be giving your presents with a side of trash. It's like, here's my gift with a side of self-interest, or greed for social currency, or condescending paternalism, or whatever other hidden motivation you might have in your being. That kind of gift feels yucky. It's not much of a gift at all, no matter how much money you spent on it. The foundation of pure-hearted motivation is bodhicitta, or the mind of wisdom and compassion. Bodhicitta manifests in many different ways. And the aspect of bodhicitta which manifests as effortless response without grasping or ego clinging is transcendental generosity. Effortless response. I really like thinking of generosity in that way. It takes it out of the idea of a material object. I'm giving you this. It's actually the habit of effortless response. So this is the opposite of greed, attachment, and territoriality. It's the opposite of clinging to thoughts, clinging to feelings and possessions. Khenchen Palden Sherab Rinpoche says, when bodhicitta radiates without holding on to anything, when you freely give away things that belong to you without any expectation, doubt, or regret, that is the perfection of generosity. Generosity increases our virtuous qualities, and it counteracts our miserliness and self-clinging, which reduces our mental suffering. We are happier when we are generous. We feel wealthy when we're generous. Chagdud Tulku says, as we learn that we always have something to give, if only a kind word, we allay our fear of deprivation and avert the karmic consequences of greed, craving, dissatisfaction, selfishness, and hoarding. Moreover, we loosen our attachment and create conditions for our own and others' happiness and ultimate well-being. When we dedicate the merit, our generosity extends even further to all beings in every realm. Over time on the Bodhisattva path, we cease to value ourselves above others. We give away our self-cherishing. The good fortune that we now enjoy in our lives is the result of our past generosity. When we take advantage of our present positive circumstances by giving, we plant more virtuous seeds and accumulate the merit we need in order to continue benefiting others in the future. So there are 3 kinds of generosity. The first is the most obvious. The first is the generosity of substance or material wealth. This means freely giving money, material possessions, and resources without regrets or any expectation of compensation or reciprocation. We don't need great wealth to be generous. We just need to have a generous spirit. For instance, instead of tossing our leftovers in the trash, we can put them in a place where animals can find them, or we could compost them. And then the little bugs and the worms can eat them. That doesn't cost us anything, and think about how happy we would be if we were hungry and someone fed us. And here we are. This is trash to us. It's nothing to us. We lose nothing by just being a little bit more mindful with our garbage, right? But that is wealth to another being who doesn't have something to eat. Or we could spend a few extra dollars on groceries so we can offer food at the local food bank. You know, now if you go to the grocery store, a lot of times they have the paper bags with like a little dinner kit in there. And you could just spend $5 and add that to your grocery run. And now you've also bought dinner for someone else who otherwise wouldn't eat. Or we might help someone carry their groceries to their car, or help someone onto the bus. Or we might tell a funny story to cheer up a friend who's having a bad day. There are so many ways that we can be generous. Chagdud Tulku says, just as water fills a bucket drop by drop, no act of generosity is insignificant, no offering too small. The extent of our selflessness and the purity of our motivation, as well as the recipient of our offering, determine the merit we create. Giving a glass of water to a thirsty person with the motivation of bodhicitta, followed by a sincere dedication, produces incalculably more merit than doing so without such motivation. Offering water to someone who is not thirsty produces less, while offering it to our object of faith results in the most merit. So it's not what or how much we have to give that matters, but the purity of our motivation when giving it. There are many stories that illustrate this point. Once during a procession, the Buddha passed a young boy who was eating some beans. And the young boy was moved by the sight of the Buddha, and so he tossed a few beans in the Buddha's direction as an offering. And 3 of these beans hit the Buddha's heart and fell into his bowl. The merit of having given just 7 beans was enough for the boy to experience lifetimes of wealth and power. Just from that small merit of that, just the merit of that very, very small offering. 7 beans. Who doesn't have 7 beans to give? Just imagine what you can do with 10 beans or 20. There's also a Mexican story that I grew up with about a young girl named Pepita who didn't have anything to give at the Christmas Eve services. And her cousin tried to cheer her up by telling her that if she gave anything out of love, her gift would be appreciated. And so on her way to the services, Pepita grabbed a handful of weeds and arranged them into a little bouquet. And she was so embarrassed as she walked up to the manger with her measly little gift of weeds, and the people around her all made fun of her. But she remembered what her cousin had said. And when she placed the bouquet at the base of the nativity scene, these weeds suddenly burst into bright red poinsettia flowers. And everyone who saw them felt that they had witnessed a miracle. And they did. They witnessed the miracle of generosity. When we cultivate perfect, pure-hearted generosity, we are participating in a miracle. Anytime that we can awaken to an aspect of the enlightened mind like that, even for a moment, we are participating in a miracle. That is a miracle to let that shine forth. Did anyone grow up watching Miracle on 34th Street? Yes. So there's this scene when Santa Claus says that Christmas is a frame of mind. And I love that. It's interesting to me how culturally, in America, it is so important not to spoil a child's belief in Santa Claus. It's taboo. If a child still believes in Santa Claus, you better not mess that up. You cannot spill the beans. As parents, you might put out milk and cookies year after year and take a bite out of the cookie, after the kids have gone to bed. And some parents will go so far as to climb on the roof with sleigh bells or sweep soot out of the fireplace, or really, really make a convincing story. And I think it's because we want to instill in our children a sense of awe at the power of generosity. I think we all know that it's so important to be in awe of the power of generosity. And we don't know how else to do that, so this is the story. But I think it's right that we should be awed by the power of generosity. It is powerful. When my husband was young, and he started to question Santa Claus, his father wrote him a rather skillful letter from Santa Claus. And the letter said, "It has come to my attention that you have come to question my existence. I think you should know that Santa Claus is a state of mind." And this is the take-home lesson that I think most kids don't get. I think once kids find out the truth about Santa, kids often feel a sense of disillusionment, that their parents have just been putting them on all these years. And it taints the whole concept of the magic of generosity as being a story for suckers. But learning that Santa Claus, who represents a powerful and magical spirit of generosity, is a state of mind, that means that you can be that magically generous too, if you just cultivate that state of mind. So I was in the hot seat once, faced with a child who was questioning the existence of Santa Claus. Years ago, I was working as a nanny for a Catholic family, and their 9-year-old daughter asked me one day, "If we celebrate Christmas because it's Jesus' birthday, then why is the focus on Santa Claus? And who is this Santa guy anyway? What does he have to do with Jesus? And is Santa even real? How does he travel around the world all in one night? And how old is he? He's older than my parents. How old is he really? And how is this even possible?" And so this is a life or death babysitting moment. My anxiety was through the roof. I'm if I mess this up, I am out of a job. So you don't want to bring back the babysitter who, ruined Santa Claus. So luckily I survived this battle of wits by telling her what I believe to be true, which is that Santa, or Saint Nicholas, was a real person who followed Jesus' teachings of generosity so well, cultivating such strong and true generosity that it became like a superpower. We know this can be true because we see the Bodhisattvas. The Bodhisattvas do this. They make wishing prayers and they cultivate tremendous powers of generosity and love and compassion, and then they're able to create miracles. So who's to say that St. Nicholas didn't do that? I told her that Christmas celebrates both Jesus as a teacher of generosity and Santa as an A+ student who shows us what's possible when we awaken pure generosity in our hearts. Magic happens, and it spreads, it's contagious. When people see one person being generous, they want to be kind and generous too. And that contagiousness is also a kind of magic. This worked, she bought it. So it seems like every year there's a story in the news about a pay-it-forward generosity spree in some drive-through line. One person pays for the person behind them, and then when that person pulls up, they find out they got their food for free, so they pay for the person behind them, and so on. And sometimes, I've heard some years where there can be a line of hundreds of people, where they just keep paying it forward, paying it forward, paying it forward. No one wants to break the trend, So that's just incredible to participate in an unbroken chain of giving like that, just inspired by the generosity of the person preceding you. So I had a funny Christmas story to illustrate that point too. That one year our cat was infected with the spirit of Christmas as well. Our cat somehow was inspired by the presents under the tree, and he decided to also put a present under the tree. So, so our cat, I walk into the living room, and our cat Pepper has brought in a bird from outside, a live bird, and carefully puts it under the tree, like into the presents, and puts it there. And then as soon as he lets go, the bird flies towards the window, and Pepper runs after the bird, and I'm running after Pepper, and he catches the bird, and I think he knew that we wouldn't want a dead bird, so he was very careful to not injure or kill the bird. But he carefully brought it back under the tree, very determined, and like arranged it among the presents, and like held it down with his paw, like stay. Just stay there. And so you never know who your generosity will inspire. Maybe it'll even inspire your cat. Oh, I caught it. I put it outside. Yeah, the bird lived. The cat really was very gentle with it. He wasn't injured at all. So it's important to maintain, while we're giving, while we're inspired to give, it's important to remain aware of our current capacity for giving, not trying to show off how generous we are, and not trying to artificially limit our generosity either. Kenshin Palden Sherab says, "Do something that you will feel happy with afterward. Not merely in the exhilaration of the moment. If you end up feeling regret, you will have spoiled your effort. So even if you do something small, do it right. You don't want to look back on it and feel that it was really too little or altogether kind of ridiculous. Understand your capacity to practice generosity so that you feel happy with your actions in all situations. Over time, your capabilities will actually grow. They will not remain as they were originally. In the beginning, they may seem minimal, but they will eventually become immeasurable. If you have courage and a joyful attitude, your ability to perform these practices will continuously expand and evolve until it is without limits." So the second type of generosity is the generosity of knowledge and communication. This includes guiding or consoling someone and sharing spiritual teachings. This type of generosity produces even greater merit than the generosity of wealth. Kenshin Palden Sherab says, "This knowledge generally refers to the wisdom which dispels ignorance, Dharma teachings. The Dharma is based in love, compassion, wisdom, nonviolence, truth, and honesty. Sharing Dharma with others helps reveal their inner nature while removing their obscurations. This is the gift of true knowledge." To practice generosity of knowledge, you have to have the right motivation. You must be motivated by bodhicitta, by love and compassion, and not be trying to enhance your reputation or trick others or gain some kind of worldly benefit. Kenshin Palden Sherab says, "This type of generosity is to be practiced according to one's ability to invoke inner wisdom and remove the obscurations of other beings." So although we may still be limited in our ability to invoke inner wisdom and in our ability to remove the obscurations of other beings, everyone has these capabilities to some degree. Even if we aren't qualified or authorized to formally teach others, we can suggest a helpful book or a class being offered by a reputable teacher. We can share an example of selflessness or share personal experiences that illustrate the value of virtuous thoughts and actions. If you can share some knowledge of the Dharma with others, even a single word, it will open a path to compassion, wisdom, and understanding their true nature. what an incredible gift that is. Chagdud Tulku says, "One of the greatest gifts is having a positive impact on someone's mind. By helping people understand the repercussions of harmful versus beneficial actions, we help them take some control over their future." The third kind of generosity involves protecting those who are afraid and preserving the lives of others. An example of this would be knowing that someone is going to be killed or executed and helping them to escape or offering ransom. This also means doing whatever you can to help protect the lives of others. This applies to all sentient beings, not just humans or animals, but to any sentient being you see who is going to die or be killed. Offering this kind of protection is an incredibly special gift because life is precious to everyone. So how might this look? We might protect a battered woman from her husband's abuse, which would also prevent the husband from suffering the terrible karmic consequences of continuing to beat her. So that's saving her from fear in the moment, and it's also saving her husband from fear and suffering in the future. If we are aware of a dog who is chained up outside in the snow all day and all night, we can report that abuse to the cops, or maybe we'll even help to rescue and rehome this dog. Or if we have friends that squish spiders or bugs, we may offer to take the spider outside so it can live, and so our friend is protected from the karmic consequences of killing. Perhaps we even share some knowledge with our friend about how the lives of all beings are precious and about how all beings want to be happy, and show them that there are alternatives to killing. Sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes people kill because they just have never even thought that there's another possibility. And sometimes if you just take a bug outside, someone goes, "Wow, I never thought of that. It's so easy." So then we're offering the generosity of protection and the generosity of knowledge. 2-for-1 deal. The holidays are all about sales, right? So this is buy one, get one free. We might protect the lives of humans and animals through our efforts to preserve the environment. And ultimately, by guiding others towards enlightenment, we protect them from the suffering of samsara. So Kenshin Palden Cherub says, "In the process of giving to others, it may sometimes look like you are seriously reducing your wealth or resources, but that is a very short-term view. Actually, you accumulate merit and increase your wealth by giving things to others. When the farmer plants seeds in the earth, it might appear that he is wasting his provisions by spreading so much of his grain on an open field. But in the future, it will bring even more food than he had before. If we want a tree to develop nicely, we might cut a little bit off here and there so that it will grow even more beautiful. Whatever you give will come back to you more abundantly than the amount you originally gave. When you give wealth generously, it will increase your wealth. If you give knowledge generously, your wisdom will deepen. Everything returns in kind, depending on what you offer others. Buddha said that if you want to be rich, you should never ignore the practice of generosity." It doesn't always come immediately, but the results of our generosity will always come back to us. We need to take every opportunity to practice generosity. We don't have to be rich to be generous. We don't even have to own whatever we offer. We can offer in our imagination anything that gives us pleasure. Chagdud Tulku says, "If we come across a pure mountain stream, rather than thinking, 'I wish this were on my land,' or 'why can't we have this in Los Angeles?' we rejoice that such pure water exists and offer it to our object of faith. As we stroll through someone's garden or beautiful home, rather than thinking, 'I wish all this wealth and beauty were mine,' we can offer it as well." For instance, last night, my husband came home with a new winter coat. He's been looking for a good coat for a while now, and he was very excited that he found one. So I felt genuinely happy for him that he had found this coat and for the warmth and comfort that it would provide him throughout the winter. Oh, I rejoiced in his happiness, and then I mentally offered the coat and the warmth and comfort of that coat to all of the Buddhas and made the wish, may all beings be warm and comfortable. This took all of about 2 seconds. It cost me nothing. You can do this anytime. It's so simple. You can do it all the time. You can do it when you're grocery shopping, offering the food and all of the wonderful meals it could be and will be made into, wishing that all beings have nutritious, delicious food to eat. You can do it when you're shopping for gifts, offering the mall and all of its contents, wishing that all beings may have whatever they need. Or since no one goes to malls anymore, you could offer whatever online store you're shopping at, or offer the entire internet itself. You can do it when you're walking through the parking lot, offering all of the cars within it and wishing that all beings are able to easily get wherever they need to go. You can do it when you're getting dressed for your holiday party or putting on your makeup, offering your beautiful appearance to the Buddhas and wishing that all who see you make a pure connection to the Dharma. You can do it when you arrive at your holiday party, offering the enjoyment of loved ones and friends, the sense of community, the laughter, and wishing all beings immeasurable joy. You can even take it a step further, offering not only the tree with its bubble lights, ornaments, and gifts, but also your very eyes and the sense of sight that perceives it. When your favorite Christmas carols play on the radio, you can offer the music as well as your ears and the sense of hearing that perceives it. You can offer the smell of the pie baking in the oven or the arugula, and also your nose and the sense of smell that perceives it. You can offer the food at your holiday feast, as well as your tongue and mouth and the sense of taste that perceives it. You can offer the warmth of the crackling fire, and as well as the skin and the sense of touch that feels the warmth. We can offer our sensory experience to the Buddhas in any and every moment, dedicating the merit of that offering to the well-being of all that lives. And by doing so, we transform the very material of our lives, of our experiences and the senses which perceive them, and we transform it all into a feast offering for the enjoyment of all beings. So any time that you can remember to make an offering to someone in need or to your object of faith, I hope you will follow through on that impulse. No offering is too small. It's your motivation that matters most. We start wherever we are, but as we practice, we go stronger and stronger, awakening our own superpowers of generosity, love, and compassion. Khenchen Palden Sherab Rinpoche said, "When you begin to act in the spirit of love, compassion, and wisdom, you are one with the activity of all realized beings." So I hope this class will inspire you to find ways that you can incorporate these methods into your daily life through the holidays and beyond. What we've learned here today will only be of benefit if we put it into practice. So I hope that if you found some value in what you've heard today, that you will take it to heart and put it into practice. And now we are going to end the class with a contemplation. So we're going to do the same type of contemplation that we've done the last few classes. This uses both effortful and effortless meditation, contemplation and relaxation. So our minds are always moving. Our minds have no choice but to move. And contemplation uses the movement of the mind in order to tame it. So the classic example of this is that, or the metaphor of this, is that taming the mind is like taming a wild horse. If you have a wild horse that's just on bucking and going crazy, if you tie it to a short tether, the horse will get scared and it'll really go nuts. It'll resist the short tether and it'll buck and kick. And it'll just try to get free. So instead, if you take a wild horse and you put it in a very large corral, then the horse thinks it's free, and so it's not resistant to your efforts. So when it's in this large corral, it doesn't feel confined because it has the freedom of movement. And then as it can move around and we can spend more time with the horse, it gets to know us. And then after a while, it learns that we're not going to hurt it. And so it starts to trust us more. And then eventually, we can come closer and closer. And then once the horse really starts to calm down, that's when we can finally make the corral smaller or start putting a tether on it and actually start working with it more. So similarly, when we want to tame the mind, we shouldn't try to restrain it at first, because our minds will react and jump around. Instead, we make a large corral of virtuous thoughts. And then our minds can run free and frolic and think that they've got all this freedom and they can play. But it's not free, but it's not completely confined. It has the freedom of movement, and so it's happy and willing to be worked with. And then we can work with its qualities of movement, which is its unceasing display. So another way to think of the mind's movement is, I think the mind can be compared to a dog, too. Have you ever known a dog that chews everything up? Like you just can't stop them from chewing. We had a dog once who would chew on everything. She'd chew on the couch cushions. She chewed on the table legs, and she really gnawed on the table legs, and damaged them. And when you have a dog like this who just like chews and chews and chews, you can't just say like stop chewing. It's not going to do anything. It's still going to. You can put it in a kennel. She'll just chew through the kennel. It doesn't matter. She has that habit of chewing. So instead what you do is you buy her some nice Kong toys, So you buy her some good chew toys, and then the dog can just chew on things that are not bad for it. She chews on good things. So that's kind of what we're doing, is we're going to give ourselves some good chew toys for our mind. Because we can't help ourselves and we chew everything up. So we need some really good quality chew toys. Yeah, more dogs than horses here. So we can chew on some virtuous thoughts. And then in addition to this analytical meditation, we'll also practice a more conceptual kind of meditation in which we just let the mind relax and fall into its natural state. And this type of meditation cuts the mind's attachment to concepts, its habits of always thinking of the past or future, likes or dislikes, how we feel about everything. All of that thinking is like constantly stirring the water in a muddy pond, never letting it settle and clarify. And by allowing the mind to relax into its natural state, we work with the mind's self-seeing or self-knowing quality. To attain enlightenment, we need both of these practices. Neither of them is sufficient on their own. A bird needs 2 wings to fly, and similarly, we need these 2 methods of contemplation and relaxation. Allowing the mind to rest is an effortless process that reveals an indwelling awareness, an awareness that is non-dual, not a subjective awareness of an object. So usually when we meditate, we try to do something. But instead of trying to do something, we're just going to let the mind relax. You don't block it, you don't follow it, you just let it be. You're not contemplating, you're not thinking, you're not judging how good you did on the last bit of contemplation, you're just letting it be. We're allowing our mind to rest in this spontaneously open space in which thoughts arise and subside. All sorts of thoughts about the past or future will arise, they'll naturally occur, but you don't grasp at them or follow them or suppress them or push them away. You just let them be. Like John Lennon says. The ordinary thoughts stem from ignorance, attachment, or aversion. Chagdud Tulku says, their reoccurrence in the mind stream forms the basis for the continuity of samsara. So instead of being upset when they come up, respond to them with compassion, realizing that this is how you and all other beings become entrapped in suffering. Thinking, there's a thought, I have to get rid of it, is like the pot calling the kettle black for both our thoughts. The goal is neither to think nor not to think. The goal is to reveal the essence of mind. So in the beginning, our minds won't stay relaxed very long because our habit of conceptualization is very, very strong. But instead of getting caught up in our ordinary thoughts, we can contemplate the persistence of them, the persistence of the thought process itself. And we can use that, contemplating the persistence of the thought process itself, we can use that to turn our mind back to the Dharma. So this is like how Milarepa said, that when we run after our thoughts, we're like a dog chasing a stick. A thought goes by and we just run after it, and instead of running after the thought, you can turn around and face the stick thrower. This is being like a lion, who rather than chasing after the stick, turns to face the thrower. One only throws a stick at a lion once. We can redirect our ordinary thinking using this step-by-step process. We'll begin by contemplating one of the 4 foundational thoughts. And then when your mind feels full of concepts and it feels stagnant, it feels no longer fresh, then you drop the contemplation and relax your mind. Allow your mind to relax only as long as it remains truly restful. In the beginning, this won't be very long. And once you've noticed you've become distracted, then you turn your mind towards the effortful meditation of compassion. And we generate compassion in relation to whatever we just contemplated. And we generate compassion until it feels really genuine and powerful. And then we let the mind rest again. And then when we begin to lose our meditation to thought, we'll consider a commitment that we feel ready to make in relation to what we've just contemplated. Then you let the mind rest again. And then when the mind inevitably becomes active again, we formulate a prayer in relation to that same contemplation. And then we let the mind rest. So you can keep going with that if you want, and you can continue with the contemplation of the next foundational thought and go through the cycle, and then go to the next thought and go through the cycle. And following this process will bring you closer to the direct experience of the mind's nature, a direct experience of the absolute truth, which can't be grasped by words or concepts. It has to be experienced. That's why contemplation isn't enough. We have to actually contemplate it, but then you have to rest so you can actually experience the nature. Awareness of mind's true nature and the thought process are not mutually exclusive. They're actually inseparable. Just as the sun's rays are the qualities of the sun, they're part of the sun, your discursive thoughts and concepts are the display of the pure awareness primordial nature. You couldn't possibly think of the sun without thinking of the sun's rays. And so we can understand that our thoughts are like that as well. We don't need to say, no, I just want to think of the sun. Stop thinking of sun rays. I just want to think of the sun. And that's, you make yourself nuts doing that. So, so we can understand that our thoughts are the display of the pure awareness primordial nature. So we'll try doing this contemplation together, and I'm going to use a timer. But if you practice this on your own, it can be helpful to use a timer if you need to, practice before work. You need to be to work on time. It's helpful to use a timer. But if you have time, it's especially good to do this contemplation exercise with just allowing your progress from one step to another or be based on recognizing when your mind is stagnant and then moving on to allowing your mind to rest, and then recognizing when your mind is active and then moving on to the next contemplation part. And that, that awareness of what is the current state of my mind is an important part of the practice. But for practicality's sake, we're going to use a timer. So what we're going to contemplate today is what we have to give in this precious human life. Do you have wealth to give others? Even if you're broke, do you have more than others? What do you have to give? If you don't have any wealth of your own, do you have anything that brings you comfort or joy that you can at least mentally offer? Is there wealth that you experience or appreciate in your daily life that you can mentally offer? Can you give others food? Do you have food to give? Can you feed the birds through the winter? Or can you donate to your local food bank? Or can you feed someone who's hungry? Can you at least buy someone lunch who otherwise wouldn't have lunch? Is there anyone to whom you can offer protection? What opportunities do you encounter in which you can protect the lives of humans or animals or bugs? Can you offer communication to others? Are you able to, do you have the ability to hear others and the ability to speak coherently back to them? Not everyone has that ability. That is precious. That is something we can use to benefit others. So who can we communicate with? Do you ever have the opportunity to console others? Do you ever have the opportunity to offer kind words? Do you ever have the opportunity to say something that would make peace in a moment, to resolve a dispute or resolve a conflict? Is there any way that you can offer kind words in a way that would help others? Are there any ways in which you can offer the Dharma? Can you recommend a book that has helped you, or invite someone to a meditation class or a teaching? Or knowing the rarity of this precious human opportunity, what can you give? What do you have access to that no one else does, or not many others do? We often take for granted all of the wealth that we have, whether the wealth of our own senses, the wealth that our eyes work, that our ears work, that our nose works, the wealth of the ability to read and write, the wealth of the ability to read the Dharma, the wealth of the ability to drive here, that we have gas in our cars and we can drive here, that we have the time available to drive all this way and stay here for an hour or for a whole day. There's so much wealth that we have in our lives that others do not have. So what do we have that we can offer others? Can you mentally offer your connection to the Dharma? Can you give your time to practice bodhicitta and dedicate that to others? Isn't that the best thing that we have to offer others? So let's think about everything that we have to give in this precious human life, all of the wealth that we have that could be of benefit to others. And then we'll go through these cycles of contemplations and relaxation, and I'll give you cues as we move from step to step. And we'll just practice this. This will take about 15 minutes. Now let the mind rest. Now generate compassion in relation to your contemplation. And let the mind rest. Now consider a commitment that you feel ready to make. And let the mind rest. Now formulate a prayer in relation to that contemplation. And let the mind rest. So you can do that meditation on your own anytime. And if you would like to do that meditation on your own, there is the instructions for that meditation are on the Facebook event page for this class. So if you ever want to look, it's up there. Now let's dedicate all of the virtue of this teaching, of the changes that we will make based on what we've learned today, and of the changes that others around us will make or will undergo by having seen us enact what we have learned today. In this way, our intentions and activity today will flow out in rings of benefit. So let's do the dedication.
Page 7.
Oh, it's all right. By this effort, may all sentient beings be free of suffering. May their minds be filled with the nectar of virtue. In this way, may all causes resulting in suffering be extinguished, and only the light of compassion shine throughout all realms.
you, Atira.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming. Happy holidays.